Alyssa. How's it going?
Good. Good to see you. My knee really hurts.
What's going on?
Right here in the front. That's when I jump, run, walk downstairs.
Ooh, that's crummy.
I don't really like going to doctors because they just normally prescribe medicine and don't really tell me what to do, so I figured I'd ask you.
Well, here's what I think might be happening. Rule number one, I'm not a doctor. Two, what might be happening is you might have a little bit of something called jumper's knee, also known as patellar tendinitis. First of all, do you know what your patella is? It's your kneecap. Oh. It's that little fancy guy that moves and tracks and helps us, create more power out of the quad. But what can happen is sometimes when our quads are too tight, if we've increased our volume in jumping and running, we can kind of inflame that tendon. So what happens is this big quad, this big guy that we love, runs all the way down through and it starts connecting and putting into our quad tendon, through our patella, through the kneecap, into this little tendon that attaches kind of just below the kneecap to the tibia, the shin bone right here. And we can kind of inflame that, make that a little cranky, and that's what I think you might be experiencing. Is it inflamed at all?
It's a little bit swollen, yeah.
Okay, have you taken any ibuprofen or anything for it?
I don't really like taking ibuprofen.
I can respect that. So here's some of the symptoms. Pain and tenderness at the patellar tendon. Bam, check. Swelling. Pain with activity.
Check.
Pain with bending.
Yes.
Wow, you got all of them.
A lot of athletes that I work with are very quad dominant.
Boo! Sorry.
When they squat, we tend to do this, and you can just tell that they're not good at loading their posterior chain, their glutes, and their hamstrings. Would you say that that is something that is possibly causing the jumper's knee?
Totally. I mean, if we're only using our quads for a little MJ style right here, you know what I mean? All we're doing is loading up that quad. We're not allowing our glutes and our hamstrings to take some of that weight off of our whole person. Last time I checked, if I'm playing defense,
oh yeah,
I'm not here.
Yeah,
I want to be here. I want all of this turned on, because me driving and trying to stop somebody, that's not quad. That's this.
Yeah.
But if we are somebody that is a little bit more quad dominant, a little bit more on that forefoot where we load up the front of our body, then it's highly important that we get some of that foam rolling, some of that loosening, because that just needs so much more attention. But it's also really important for us to take the time to develop our hamstrings so that they feel confident getting back in there. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. A really good way to put it. So if we have a coach that's hey, let's shift it back a little bit, let's listen to it. If we're trying to avoid jumper's knee, we probably need to learn how to engage the backside of that body a little bit more so that we take some of that pressure off the front of the leg.
Arguably, that's where coming in here is very important.
Totally.
That's when we train that.
100%, yeah. So we have the opportunity to correct any imbalances. So if we release all this to take some of that pressure off, to give you some slack downstream on the leg, takes a little pressure off that, gives it a chance to breathe a little bit more and recover. So how we're going to do that is a foam roller.
Nice.
And I want you to just breathe into it, and I want you to then explore the entire length of your quad for me. So have you found any spots that make you go, whoo?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, let's go to one of those spots.
Okay.
I want you to work to breathe and relax enough to let that foam roller almost touch that quad bone. That same crappy spot, I want you to slide side to side. Don't roll, go side to side and scrub. You also have your fascia, basically the saran wrap of your muscles. It helps things slide and glide a little bit better, whether that's in between your skin and your muscle, and your muscles between themselves and between those fibers. So what can happen is those get stuck, they get gummed up, and so they're not exactly the smooth fibers that slide and glide right next to each other. They're kind of bleh, bleh. With the scrubbing, what I'm gonna have you do is then take this leg and flex and extend it. This is called a pin and stretch. Alyssa's doing is pinning that quad muscle, and that's closer to the attachment point. You're gonna find that the origination of where her quads start and the insertion point into that lower piece are always going to be incredibly tender. So we're reminding the muscle we can lengthen and we can extend, and we're gonna gain some more length in that area so that we take some of that tension off that patella. Now we need to basically bulletproof it, right?
Yeah.
Cool, so what that's gonna look like is, if you have a slant board in at home, you can make one super easy, but what we're trying to do is lift Alyssa's heels so that she biases the quads more than the hamstring. And so what I'm gonna have Alyssa do is get into a squat position, and if she needs to widen that up, she doesn't have to make it that narrow. It's really dependent on where you like to squat. What this is gonna do is bring all of that weight into her forefoot, right? She's definitely, you can see it on her feet right here, how much more she is forward. And so what that's doing is we are strengthening the quad. We are putting all the weight in that so that this has to do the work, but we're also completely lengthening.
So question, I'm not trying to necessarily
Get
build
yoked in this.
yeah,
Absolutely. This is not a strength. This is a rehab. We're staying fairly light. We're really focused on the tempo and the lengthening of the muscle, and we're just kind of warming things up. I would also recommend doing some hamstring and some glute work to also make sure all of that is turned on so we don't continue to bias just the quad. But if we're looking for before a practice, before a game, whatever sport we're in, I don't want you I wouldn't get too crazy before it. Do a couple sets, warm that up, get everything you can get warmed up.
Yeah.
Take the time. You're not too young to have a good warm up.
That's right.
So we're loading that quad, bring those knees forward. Yeah. You feel that